If a name can carry more meaning than just what it sounds like, imagine giving your child a name because it sounds beautiful, only to discover years later that the name has a meaning connected to something you never intended for your child. In the Bible, names were often much more than labels. A name could represent identity, character, destiny, reputation, or even a person's relationship with God. So before you name your child, listen carefully, because the last name on this list may surprise you. And here's something important. This video is not about saying that every person who has one of these names is bad. Absolutely not. This is about understanding biblical meanings, symbols, and principles so that parents can make thoughtful decisions. Stay until the end because number 6 teaches us something deeper about names that many people never think about. Number 1, Judas. The name Judas is connected to Judah, which originally has a positive meaning associated with praise. In fact, Judah was an important tribe of Israel, and the name itself is not evil. But why would we put Judas on this list? Because of the powerful biblical association created by Judas Iscariot. Judas Iscariot was one of the 12 disciples of Jesus, but he became known for betraying Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Imagine the emotional weight behind that story. He walked with Jesus. He heard his teachings. He saw miracles. He ate with him. Yet he eventually chose betrayal. This teaches us something important. A name may have a beautiful original meaning, but people can attach powerful associations to it. For many Christians, the name Judas immediately brings the story of betrayal to mind. So if you're considering this name for your child, think carefully about the biblical association and what you want the name to represent. Number 2, Delilah. Delilah is another name that carries a very strong biblical association. In the book of Judges, Delilah became known for her relationship with Samson. Samson was given extraordinary strength by God, but Delilah discovered the secret of his strength and betrayed him by revealing it to his enemies. She repeatedly pressured Samson until he finally told her the truth. The result was devastating. Samson lost his strength, was captured, blinded, and imprisoned. Now, does this mean every person named Delilah will become deceptive or dangerous? Of course not. A name does not control a person's heart. But the biblical story gives the name a strong association with manipulation, betrayal, and temptation. Think about it like this. If someone told you, this name is connected to one of the Bible's most famous stories of betrayal, wouldn't you want to know before choosing it? As parents, we should not choose names only because they sound beautiful. We should also ask, what does this name represent? And what story is connected to it? Number 3, Ahab. Ahab was a king of Israel, but his story is one of the darkest examples of leadership in the Old Testament. The Bible describes Ahab as someone who did evil in the sight of the Lord. He allowed idol worship to grow in Israel and was strongly influenced by his wife Jezebel. One of the saddest parts of Ahab's story is how easily he allowed his desires to overcome righteousness. He wanted Naboth's vineyard, and when Naboth refused to give it to him, Ahab became miserable. Instead of accepting the answer, his wife Jezebel arranged for Naboth to be falsely accused and killed. Ahab then took possession of the vineyard. This story teaches children and adults a powerful lesson. Wanting something badly does not make it right to take it. Ahab had power, wealth, and authority, but he did not use them according to God's ways. So while Ahab is certainly a historical biblical name, parents who want a name with a positive biblical association may want to think twice before choosing it. Because when people hear Ahab, many Bible readers immediately remember a king associated with idolatry, injustice, and spiritual compromise. Number 4, Jezebel. This one is probably the most recognizable name on our list. Jezebel was the wife of King Ahab, and her story is filled with rebellion against God, idolatry, manipulation, and persecution of God's prophets. She promoted the worship of Baal and strongly opposed the prophet Elijah. In one dramatic moment, Elijah confronted the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, and God demonstrated his power. Yet Jezebel remained determined to oppose Elijah. She threatened his life, and Elijah became afraid and ran into the wilderness. Jezebel's story reminds us that influence can be dangerous when it is used against God's truth. She was not simply a woman with an opinion. She used her position and influence to encourage practices that led people away from God. Today, the word Jezebel has become so strongly associated with her biblical character that many people immediately think of manipulation, rebellion, and spiritual corruption when they hear it. Again, this does not mean a person carrying the name is automatically evil. God judges the heart, not the spelling of someone's name. But if you are choosing a name for your child, it is wise to understand the story connected to it. Number 5. Cain. Cain is one of the earliest names mentioned in the Bible, and his story carries a heartbreaking warning about jealousy, anger, and uncontrolled sin. Cain and his brother Abel both brought offerings to God. But when Abel's offering was accepted and Cain's was not, Cain became angry. God warned him that sin was waiting at the door and that he needed to master it. But Cain did not listen. Instead, he took his brother Abel into the field and killed him. Think about how painful this story is. 2 brothers, 1 family, 1 terrible decision. Cain allowed jealousy and anger to grow until they turned into violence. That is why the name Cain carries such a heavy biblical association. But Cain's story is also a warning for every one of us. You may not be holding a weapon, but anger can still destroy relationships. Jealousy can destroy friendships. Bitterness can destroy families. When we allow negative emotions to control us, small problems can become enormous tragedies. So if you're considering naming your child Cain, understand the powerful biblical story connected to the name before making your decision. And now we have reached number 6. This is the one I want you to think about very carefully. Number 6. Ichabod. Unlike some of the other names on this list, Ichabod is shocking because of what it represented when it was given. In 1 Samuel chapter 4, Israel suffered a devastating defeat. The Ark of God was captured by the Philistines, and Eli, the priest, died after hearing the terrible news. Eli's daughter-in-law went into labor, and during her final moments she named the child Ichabod. The name is associated with the idea that the glory had departed from Israel. Imagine being a child and carrying a name connected to a moment of national tragedy and spiritual loss. This is why Ichabod is such a powerful example of why parents should think deeply about the meaning behind a name. A name can become a reminder of a story, can carry history, it can point people toward something. And here's the deeper lesson. Your child's name does not determine their destiny. The Bible never teaches that simply having a particular name automatically makes someone good or evil. David was named David, but his choices mattered. Peter was called Peter, but his faith had to grow. Judas had a name with a positive root, yet his choices became tragic. The heart matters. Character matters. Faith matters. So don't live in fear when naming your child. Instead, be intentional. Before choosing a name, ask 3 simple questions. First, what does this name mean? Second, what biblical story or person is connected to this name? Third, does this name represent the values and faith I want to communicate to my child? Your child may carry that name for 80 years or more. They may introduce themselves with it thousands of times. They may write it on school papers, documents, businesses, books, and even family records. So don't choose a name simply because it sounds fashionable. Take time to understand it, pray about it, study it, talk about it with wisdom. And remember, parents, the greatest gift you can give your child is not a perfect name. It is a life filled with love, godly instruction, prayer, discipline, and a good example. Proverbs 22 verse 6 says to train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. A name can introduce your child to the world, but your example will help shape the person they become. So if you're expecting a child, or you already have children, don't panic. This message is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to encourage you to be intentional. And if your name happens to be Judas, Delilah, Ahab, Jezebel, Cain, or Ichabod, remember this: your name does not make you evil, and your past does not have to define your future. God looks at the heart. Your choices matter. Your faith matters. Your relationship with God matters. So before you choose a name, choose wisdom. Before you choose what sounds beautiful, discover what it means. And before you worry about the name your child will carry, focus on the character you will help them build. Because in the end, the most powerful name your child can carry is not simply a name written on a birth certificate. It is a name connected to a life that honors God. If this message opened your eyes, share it with another parent or someone expecting a baby. And remember, a name may introduce your child, but their character will tell the world who they truly are.